The Bulletproof Business Plan is going to outline how you can reverse engineer a simple strategy for exceeding your goals in life and business and community. There's a lot of reasons why small business owners struggle to meet their goals and find themselves spinning their wheels day after day, month after month, or year after year. The first is not having a clear outcome or compass. In other words, most business owners don't have a well-defined picture of what success looks like over the long term. So things like lifestyle, income, business, what their team or contribution should look like. So that's why a lot of us are spinning our wheels, because if we don't have a destination that's well defined, there's very little chance of us getting there. And the other main reason why business owners struggle or fail is what I call dead end syndrome. It has us spinning our wheels, finding ourselves in the same spot day after day, month after month, year after year, because we're bouncing all over the place. And with lack of that compass and not having something on the horizon we're aiming to, we find ourselves always dealing with what's right in front of our face, that's why we have a lot of crises, a lot of bouncing all over the place in terms of marketing strategy, because we don't have a well-defined outcome. So that dead end syndrome is something we can beat in 4 simple steps. So the Bulletproof Business Plan allows you to kind of, again, mitigate the long-term and find out exactly what you should be doing right now in 4 simple steps. Let's cover them. The first step is to zoom way out and define your why. In other words, 3 years from now, where should you be? Things like, again, success, balance, time. What should your revenue be? Your income, your profitability, your team, your contribution. We're going to cover how to do this in a moment, but understand that the first thing you have to do is zoom all the way out and think about, why am I doing this? Is this a business I should be in? If I'm looking at multiple opportunities, which one of those is really going to provide me the freedom and revenue and contribution? So I have to start all the way beyond 30,000 foot out in space and say, hey, what's my big why? Where do I want to be in 3 years? The second step is to create your map. So this is more like the 1 year kind of strategy. What would be true in 1 year for me to be headed for that big why? What would be in place in terms of my team, my revenue? What numbers am I aiming to hit in 1 year in order to make sure that I'm headed for my long-term agenda, my long-term goal? Then the third step we're going to cover is how to build your bridge. So you have your big picture why, your 1 year strategy of what you want to do. Now we're talking about the how. So for the next 90 days, what 3 key initiatives have to be live for you to be on track? And then finally, you have to zoom way in. This is the most important, is what should you be doing right now this week to grow your business to hit those 90-day goals? So think about it. What you should be doing right now is only pointing to your 90-day goals, which are only pointing to your 1 year, which is pointing to your 3 year. The result of this is ninja-like execution, which means everything you're doing is eliminating wasted time or money. When you show up to complete work, even if you have very limited time right now for marketing or building your business, you need to know that that time that you're spending is absolutely going to be used in a fruitful and productive way in producing results. So you're not going to figure out what to do and test things and try things. You have to show up knowing that whatever you put up is going to end up producing revenue and results. So let's look at the framework. But remember, those 4 big steps are represented right here. Your 3 year vision, which is why you're doing this in the first place. Your 1 year goals, meaning what needs to be true in 1 year to be on track for that big why. Your 90-day strategy, or how, and then this week's actions now. What do you need to be doing right now? So if I look, for example, at the 3 year vision, I might say, okay, well, what metrics need to be true? What kind of sales numbers and profitability should I have in 3 years to meet and exceed that big why? And what's my motivation? That's the why. Why do I want to do this in the first place? How do I want to feel in 3 years? What purpose should I have? And then the lifestyle, things like the leverage I have. Am I leveraging others, either intellectual property or time or work, to complete my bigger goals so I can reach a bigger audience? So I'm not trading time for dollars, so to speak. So you have to write these things down. This is the fun part. You get to say, wow, where could I be? What's my wildest, big, hairy, audacious goal for where I should be in 3 years? And then finally, what structure will allow this to be true? What kind of team do I have to have in place? What kind of products do I have in place? What do these things look like? So just write down in the upper left-hand quadrant all these categories, and then we're going to get into the 1 year goals, or the what. Okay, in the right-hand quadrant here, you can see we have the 1 year goals, or the what. What needs to be true? These are the steps. What truths need to exist in terms of metrics, deliverables, capacity? In other words, metrics. What sales numbers and profit should you have to be on track with the 3 year vision? Now, it doesn't mean you take the 3 year vision and divide it by 3, because that would be great if that was true, but usually there's economy of scale and we've already figured things out. So you only have to have 20 or 25% of your 3-year goal accomplished next year, because once you get there, it's going to be easy to scale. So then we look at deliverables. What products and pricing should be existing or live in 1 year from now in order to be on track for that 3-year why? So if I don't have multiple products, or I don't have a coaching or mastermind program, or I don't have a partnership or JV program, maybe that would have to be live. And then capacity, ability to scale. The third thing in the 1 year section is, what would be my restriction? So if I were to 10x my sales or 50x my sales, where would my business break? Do I not have enough salespeople, fulfillment, partners, distribution? So now, regardless of what kind of business you have, and especially if you're just starting out, you need to think about this stuff now. Because as we get to the 90-day and this week's actions, it's all that much more important that you're solely focused on what's going to help you hit these 1 year numbers. Now, the 3 year, it's important to point out the 3-year vision is often the horizon. It doesn't need to be specific. These are big numbers and goals. The 1 year gets more specific. It should be milestones based, what needs to be true. Now let's look at the 90-day or how. What are the 3 key things we have to do to be on track just in this 90-day sprint? Or 3 things we need to do in the next 3 months to make sure we're going to kill our 1 year goal. So in this section, in the 90-day strategy, we have 3 key projects. We have, it's always 3. You can't have 6 goals. That's a lot of the problems, a lot of the reasons why we struggle with marketing is because a lot of people write down, I'm going to do like these 37 things, have 9 webinars up, and I'll launch 5 products. Then you don't get the first one done for 3 months and you're discouraged. Then what you do is you scrap the whole system. I'm going to show you how to make this stick with accountability in a moment. But anyway, what 3 key things need to be live in the next 90 days? Now, what I want you to do is actually write the date. So next to 90-day strategy, literally, what is 90 days from today? Is it August 7th? Is it June 9th? Is it January 5th? 90 days from today, I want you to write down that date, because you're going to do a new one of these every 90 days. That's really the key, because your vision might change, your goals might change. They shouldn't be reduced in terms of metrics, but you need to look up like a groundhog. Okay, every 90 days, let me look around, see where I am. Am I still headed in the right direction? Did I get these 3 things done? So they have to be actionable items. Launch this, publish this, sell this, right? So 100 new clients, launch new webinar, hire 2 new salespeople. What are the 3 things you need to do to make this 90-day strategy true, right? Then, and most importantly, and really all that matters where most business owners fail, is what you should be doing right now via this week's actions. Okay, this week's actions right now. Here's what I want you to do. I literally want you to post this whole bulletproof business plan on your wall somewhere where you and your team can see it. If you have other people on your team, they should each have one, but you should have your master business one right up on the wall. Now, every week, what you do is you post a Post-it note, literally just a Post-it note of this week's actions. 3 things that absolutely have to be true. And you can make one of them dead easy, like go to the gym once or publish 1 blog post or something. Make it really simple so you have momentum and a feeling of victory. So what 3 things need to be live right now for you to accomplish your goals? Then you publish it. You put another Post-it note up the next week on every Monday. How did I do last week? Did I get those things checked off? And right over the last Post-it note, you place one for the next week. So you're going to do that for 12 weeks, for 90 days. Then at the end of 90 days, you debrief, you look at this strategy, and you create a new one. You have 3 new 90-day objectives, and you need to make sure that this week, whatever you're doing supports those 90-day goals. You need to move all those goals forward, or one at a time, however you prefer to work, depending on what they are. But let me tell you something. I guess I already did. Here's the thing. If I ask 100 business owners, what are you working on right now to grow your business? 99.9 don't have an answer, or it doesn't support some bigger strategy, or it's not the right thing. They're doing all kinds of stuff out there. They're saying, I'm working on content marketing and SEO and blogging. And the truth is they don't have a model in place, which is what we're going to cover in the upcoming webinar. So what I want you to do now before the webinar is or maybe if you're going to the webinar in the next day or 2, just make sure you set a goal. Just fill this out. Make one of your actions to actually do this bulletproof business plan, because then we're going to fill in the blanks during the upcoming webinar so you know exactly what you should be doing this week and over the next 90 days with our clear strategy. So the most important thing is, what's the one thing you should be doing right now? And I want you to answer that with a bulletproof business plan. Welcome to the Perfect Avatar course. Let me take just a few moments and help you understand exactly how this works and what we're going to cover, and more importantly, why this is critically important for your business. The Perfect Avatar is the first course in the foundational section, and getting this down is going to save you a ton of time and money and help everything else you do fall into place. It's going to give you almost an unfair advantage in your marketplace. Let me talk for just a moment about why this matters so much. Because you need to make sure you're climbing the right mountain. You have to do everything you can as an entrepreneur to set yourself up for success by serving the right audience, solving the right problem in a way, most importantly, that fits your lifestyle and your personal and your financial goals. The first part of this training is called the Target Matchmaker, and it's going to help you identify your target market in a way that you've probably never seen before. There's a framework that you're going to go through, and by the time you complete this, you're going to make sure you have a good fit with your lifestyle, your passion, knowing you're solving a problem that exists in the marketplace, and you have a clear pathway to get there. The second training is called the Avatar Snapshot, and just like it sounds, it's going to help you get crystal clear on exactly who your target market is in terms of their demographics and psychographics, who they are and what they do. So we can start to figure out how to target them and craft messaging that makes sense and is calibrated to that target audience. Then we're going to dig into the Avatar Goals Grid, which is going to help you find the exact goals, frustrations, fears, and dreams of your avatar, and more importantly, in their exact language. It's the first and most important step in crafting all your messaging and your marketing campaigns. I think you're really going to dig this. And of course, we have a framework to help you get there quickly. And the last training in the avatar section is called the Avatar Currency Calculator. And it's going to help you get really crystal clear on the problem you're going to solve first for your audience. And more importantly, to have a metric and a timeline. So this framework is going to help you understand exactly the first problem you're going to solve, and then you're going to put a metric and a timeline to it so your products and programs go from desirable to necessary. So that's the Perfect Avatar course. Be sure to dig in, download, and fill out the frameworks, and more importantly, take the quiz at the end so you know that you have the ability that you need to move forward, and most importantly, have fun. The Target Market Matchmaker. The goal of this training is very simple: to help you ensure that you're climbing the right mountain and creating products and programs that fill an existing need to a defined group of people that you're passionate about helping. So if you've ever asked yourself, how do I find the right niche or the right market for my product or program, this training is for you. In terms of context or where this falls in the Fletcher method, this is one of the core foundational trainings in the avatar section. So in the avatar section, we're going to find, am I serving the right market? Who is my customer? The psychographics, demographics, and help you then transition to your messaging and finally your offer. So this is important. Again, if you don't have an existing successful business, if you're either just starting out or you haven't had the results you'd like in targeting and finding the right niche market for your business. Why does this matter? Well, I bet you can guess that most people approach creating a product, program, or service the hard way. By that, I mean they go and create a product or program, then they try to find someone to sell it to, and that's just backwards. It's like selling in the dark, and quite frankly, hope is not a strategy. So if you haven't read the Lean Startup, which talks about launching the MVP or minimum viable product to a market, it's very simple. You don't say build it and they will come. You say ask them what they need. Really develop and get clear on a specific group of people that has an explicit problem that you want to serve. You have the talent and passion to serve, and then you almost can't go wrong, right? And most people, when it comes to product development or launching their programs and finding a target market, it just takes way too long. Well, why do you think that is? Because they're shotgunning. They're searching around for people to buy something instead of, imagine the pinpoint accuracy of just saying, what exactly do you want? If I built this and charged this, would you buy it? And somebody said yes, you define the market and you have a match and you move forward, okay? So a lot of times entrepreneurs really hit their head up against the wall and find themselves at a dead end street. They're just, after all this effort and time, usually in the long run, they're not successful. They go try a different opportunity. They say, hey, this specific product didn't work, and they don't learn their lesson. They don't learn that they have to first develop the MVP or minimum viable product based on needs and understanding the market. So that's what the Target Market Matchmaker training is going to do, is help you ensure you're climbing the right mountain so you're very, very efficient. My goal for you is to have virtually guaranteed success. What I mean by that is this framework we're going to cover today is going to help you ensure that all the time, money, and passion you're spending is going to be well spent. Kind of like having a crystal ball where you can look in the future and know, hey, I've already done my homework and stacked the deck in my favor. Now I can move in the right direction and know that I'm serving a problem that already exists in the market. And more importantly, it helps you launch quickly. To know that you're not going to have any waste in research and kind of iteration. You're going to have to go back to the well and find a different target market and reprice and come up with your product. That's a nightmare, right? This is going to help you launch quickly. Okay, let's dig right in. There's 5 simple steps that you need to put in place to ensure that you have the right market, the market matchmaker, that your products and programs are matched with a market that you're going to be very successful in. The first is to find your passion. Now, I want you to think about this. Is there a specific group of people who you're really passionate about helping? Passion leads to skill and long-term success. So a lot of people in the marketing world or the internet marketing world especially say, what's your niche? I'm selling this. Like they're day traders without any emotion or real passion. And I don't believe that's the way to build a business. I think that's the way to make a few $1,000s, okay? So what I want you to do is think about what is your greatest passion that you can sink into. What do you read about when you're not working and your spare time? What do you think about? What really gets you excited? What are you willing to work extra hours to do? That's your passion, and that's where you're going to get good at. I'm going to show you in the actual framework how to really identify that passion. Let's move on to step 2. A proven problem. Is there already an identified problem in the market? You know, there's an analogy about this that says if you have an idea that's never been done before, if you have a product that's never been to the market, you're either a genius or a fool. Why is that? Because 9 times out of 10, if you have a defined market, they're already expressing that they have a problem. They're already out there Googling stuff. They're out there asking questions about problems that they have, and it has to be an explicit problem. It's very hard to convince someone they have a problem and then sell them a solution. Like I know someone that sold ionized water, or there's a lot of products out there that you don't even understand. You're like, I didn't know I needed that. And then they have to explain to you it's a 2-part sale and it's very hard. They have to first help you discover that there's a problem you know you had yesterday and then solve it for you. You want to sell to people that already know they have a problem that they need solved quickly. That's called an explicit need. Is there a clear path to profit? That's kind of the third P in this framework we're going to cover today. In other words, is there a known market for what you have to offer, and can they pay you? Now, what I mean by path to profit is like, not to be rude, but you don't want to sell shoes to homeless people. Not that you wouldn't want to open a nonprofit to do that or be charitable in your spare time. Absolutely, you want to help people. But no matter how good you are at solving somebody's problem, there has to be a profit. Is there potential for recurring revenue? Can they measure the return on investment so you can quantify the value of what you bring to your market? Is there a clear path to profit? And the next P is, can you create a presence? I want you to think about this. A lot of times when people develop a product or program, they come to me and say, I'm struggling. And then I say, are you a Me Too provider? Meaning, are you in a commoditized niche where you're just one of many people doing the same thing as everyone else, because that's a race to the bottom? You want to be preeminent. You want to say, your market should be able to say, I am the only, Aaron is the only, Jill is the only, or the best. So usually you're not niching down enough if you can't create a presence, if you can't be seen as the go-to authority in that niche. Let's talk about that a little bit and dig into the framework. It's time for a framework. As you know, everything, the whole premise of this training in the system is that nothing matters if we don't have actually a framework, a roadmap, or a template, or a cheat sheet to put into practice. So what you're looking at here are the 5 Ps that make up the target market makeover framework. I know it's a mouthful, but this is really important because it's going to help you find your ideal target market. Again, if you're just starting out or you're not getting the results you want from your existing business. The goal is to use this framework to simply ensure you're climbing the right mountain by creating products and programs that not only fill an existing need to a defined group of people, but more importantly, that you're passionate about helping and can make a profit by serving. Let's run through these 5 Ps real quick. The first is passion. Now think about it. Who would you help for free in the market? If money was not an object, what would you spend your legacy or your why working on? Who would you help for free and what would you do for them? What do folks tell you you're already good at What comes easily to you? That's going to be a path of least resistance with less friction and more long-term sustainable growth and interest, and quite frankly, skill. Passion always leads to skill. Okay. The second is problem. Is there already an explicit need? Does this group of people already know that they have a problem, so you don't have to explain to them that they have a problem and then sell them a solution? And you could tell that by looking at Google keyword tools, which I'll cover in a separate video, but are there people searching for a solution? Are they looking on social media and asking questions on sites like Quora and other sites? And are they searching Google for a solution? Is the market growing or declining? You don't want to get into the market of selling VHS tapes and become the best salesperson or distributor of VHS tapes right now. What is the trend? But most importantly, can you solve the problem better, cheaper, faster, or else why get into the game? The third is profit. Can these folks afford your solution? Because we all want to be of service, but we also have to sustain and grow our businesses and be profitable ourselves. What is the size of this niche? Are you serving a total target market of 50 or 60 or 1,000 people? Because it's going to be hard to advertise and reach those people and have a long-term business if the niche isn't large enough. You want a niche of 100,000 or more people, ideally, okay? Can you quantify the ROI? This is so important. No matter what you do, if you sell a product, a service, software, anything in between to businesses or consumers, you have to quantify not just your hourly billing or some other arbitrary metric, but the ROI. What is the transformation? What is the before and after? And we're going to get into this a lot more in future training videos, but I just want you to know, can you quantify the ROI? And more importantly, can your customers? And finally, is there potential for recurring revenue? Because instead of selling something over and over again, I would challenge anyone to ask themselves, how can I turn this into an MRR or monthly recurring revenue model? And if you haven't read the book, The Automatic Customer, I'll put a note for that here. It's a very good book on how to turn any business model, product, or service into an MRR business. It's so much easier when you start each month with most of your revenue already in the bank. Presence. Can you be seen as the go-to provider? How competitive is that niche? Now, when most people come to our programs and our products and our seminars and webinars, they say, I'm a web designer for who? Businesses. And usually they'll never be able to be seen as the authority because their niche is too large and they're too bland in their message. So how do you do that? You usually niche it down until you can be either seen as the only or the best, because you need that forward momentum and that inbound business and reputation and that exponential growth that comes from having a reputation and being seen as the go-to provider. So if you can't do that being a web designer, then maybe you could be a law firm web designer. And if that market is too competitive, then you can be the bankruptcy web designer. And if that's too competitive, you can be the only or best WordPress web designer for bankruptcy firms. And that niche might be large enough for you to serve and make a great living for and charge more and more and have a fulfilling life, okay? Think about what messaging is being used in the existing market. So what are your competitors doing? There's a separate training that you can go through here in this membership about finding the ideal target market and how to reverse engineer that market's competitive advertising strategies. But for now, just think about how are they positioning themselves? It's all about being seen in your niche as the go-to person and being able to serve them better, cheaper, faster, or else why play? Pathway. What I mean by this is, can you find them? Is there a clear path or pathway for you to access this target market? If not, everything else is for nil. If direct mail is the only way to find this niche, then not to say direct mail is dead. In fact, it's actually growing because most people are online. You might have an uphill battle. If there's not any groups in LinkedIn or Facebook for you to target these folks, any interest gurus, publications, you want to make sure that your market is easily reachable online. The rest of this course and this training, we're going to put together your messaging and your products, and everything is going to fall into place. But the whole point is we have to be able to turn on the floodgates and find those folks, okay? So make a list of the interests, experts, publications, associations, and groups, and understand kind of where your folks are hanging out online and can you reach them. So those are the 5 Ps. Let's look at a framework we put together for you to kind of do some research if you need to. What I'd like you to do is just take this the target market eval tool and just fill it out for your top 2 or 3 niches and answer these simple questions. Do the research. There's going to be some supplemental videos here, again, about reverse engineering your competition and using Google keyword tools if you need that. Ask questions in the community. Make sure you stay engaged. But your homework is to fill out the eval tool and ensure that you're climbing the right mountain and have a long-term vision to work on your why and serve a group of people you're passionate about that you can have a sustainable business with, and not just sell the next niche, the next thing without emotion. It's not about a product, it's about a business. Hopefully this is helpful. I'll see you in the next training. The Avatar Snapshot. This is a simple framework to help you get extremely clear on exactly who your target customer, aka avatar, is, and more importantly, what they do and exactly where to find them both online and offline. And just for context, let's talk about where we are in the training. This is still part of the Avatar course, which is under the foundational phase, and it's very, very important, as if you don't know who your customer is and where they are, you don't have a very clear vision. In other words, if you don't know your customer just like you do your close friends and family members, then you're not going to be able to create relevant messaging and offers that make sense to them. So why does this matter? Why do we need to spend time filling out a framework that talks about the who and what of our avatar? Because getting clear on who they are and what they think is critical. In fact, it adds up to 90 or 95% of your success when it comes to marketing. Once you have this down, then you can easily craft messaging because you know exactly who you're talking to, as if it was a one-on-one conversation. I mean, think about it. Years ago, we had things like radio, newspapers, yellow pages, direct mail, and billboards, and these were the main channels we had for reaching our audiences. Now, if you look at this billboard here, in spite of how handsome this young fellow is, it's probably not going to be as effective as our current digital marketing era allows. 99, 100, maybe even more percent of the people that drive by, those of you that commute both ways, would not be in the market for a marketing or a business book. So you're wasting most of your money. You know, if you don't know who your target avatar customer is, you're practicing what I call totally anonymous marketing. You're not sure who they are and you're kind of flying blind. And more importantly, they don't know who you are. So let's use this framework to transform from anonymous to incredibly intimate, where everything you do seems like a one-on-one conversation where you're speaking to one person and you know exactly who they are and where to reach them at the right watering hole. It allows you to get results more quickly, allows you to stop wasting money. Imagine if every dollar you spent in advertising or marketing was well spent because it got in front of the right eyeballs at the right time, at the right place, okay? So there are two simple, but again, very powerful steps to the Avatar Snapshot framework. The first is demographics, who they are. These are things that don't change. These are things that are characteristics of your target avatar in terms of who they are, and psychographics, what they do, their hobbies, their interests, their opinions, activities, and maybe the gurus they follow, the brands that they pay attention to. So once you have the who and what, then and only then can you focus on the why and how, which we're going to cover in future training. So let's dig into the framework. It's actually very simple. I love framework time, by the way. It's time for a framework. And this framework, we want to just have you print this out and understand who they are, things like the name, the gender. Now, it sounds weird to say name. It sounds weird to say Jim, but it's very important. And again, think of your best customer or your ideal customer. If you don't have customers, then go through the target market matchmaker training and really try to find out who you should be serving with your passion and interest, where there's potential for a profit and everything we cover there. But if you have a business and you already know who your customers are, we want to really document that. If you have your niche figured out, that's where you should be. This is where you should be filling this out. Okay, so the name, the gender. Now, a lot of people say, well, I have tons of genders. I serve males and females. I serve children and adults. I serve old and young. Same with the age, location. Here's the deal. You have to use the rule of ones to get ultimate traction and success. What I want to see for you that's going to be critical to you getting traction quickly is that you pick one avatar to go after first. It has to be your best. You can go after multiple avatars. A lot of businesses have multiple target audiences and niches and sectors, but right now, who is the customer that's going to get you the most revenue for your first lead magnet and funnel and product in the next 90 days? Where are they located? What's their income? What's their marital status? What do you know about these folks? Now, in a separate video here in this course, I'm going to talk about how to find this information using tools like SEMrush or Facebook or even Google AdWords and keyword tools. But for right now, we want to just fill out what you know about your avatar. Demographics, who they are. Psychographics, what they do. This is important because in the digital marketing area, as I alluded to earlier, we have unprecedented ability to reach people and find them online. In order to do that, let's do our homework. You have to fill out the social media groups, your target avatar, this first avatar would be likely to follow and be part of. The publications they would read, the associations they might belong to if you're doing B2B or B2C in some cases. Brands. What brands do they follow? What major brands and pages might they like in places like Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook? What experts or gurus do they follow? And what tools and software are they likely to use or follow online? So if I'm targeting, for example, you, my target avatar, I might target, people who are into maybe Frank Kern, Evan Pagan, Marie Folio, or other experts, people who like maybe tools and brands like Hootsuite or HubSpot or Infusionsoft. They might read publications like Entrepreneur Magazine, for example. Does that make sense? So I really want to get clear on those things. Now, again, I'm going to show you in another video how to use Facebook Audience Insights to reverse engineer that. But if you have an existing business, go as far as you can and fill this out. Opinions, behaviors, and events, these things matter. Like everything else, when it comes to this training, the more you put into the foundation, the easier everything else will be. So your homework is to fill out the avatar snapshot. I just want you to literally get the demographics and psychographics down. It's going to make everything you do in this course a heck of a lot easier, more effective, and more fun. Okay, now it's time to talk about something I think you're going to find very helpful and actually help you start to see the forest through the trees. It's called the Avatar Goals Grid, and it's designed to help you find out the exact goals, frustrations, fears, and dreams of your avatar in their exact language. It's the first and most important step in helping you craft bulletproof messaging, campaigns, products, and ads that your customers will find irresistible. So if you've ever struggled with copywriting or quote unquote, what to say in your marketing or ad campaigns, this training is for you. But first, as always, let's zoom out and talk about where we are in the training. This third installment in the Avatar course talks about who your customers are and what they need right now. If you remember in part one, the target market makeover, we helped you define your niche and your target audience. And then in the Avatar snapshot training, we talked about who they are and what they do. And now we need to focus in on the exact pains and frustrations, the problems that your customers need solved right now. Let's examine why this matters, why this is critical for everything else you do downstream related to your marketing. Let's be brutally honest and just put it out there and say that most of our marketing gets lost in translation. It's either too confusing, complicated, or bland, and it just plain doesn't resonate or motivate our audience to take action. Oftentimes, we don't know what to say or how to describe our programs or products. We pack on too many benefits and features, and we don't hit the nail on the head. And well, the bottom line is we just don't move the needle and motivate people to take action. So how do we get from lost in translation to complete motivation, where we're hitting the nail right on the head? We're speaking to their top concerns and goals, creating more urgency, connection, and clarity, and more importantly, getting them motivated to take action, to take that next step in our funnel. The good news is there are just two simple steps to make this happen. Step one is you must ask them. Now, I mean you must, because a lot of us create programs or services or products based on what we think the audience wants and the words we think that are going to resonate with them. But marketing can be boiled down to one simple strategy. Find a target group of people, aka your avatar. Ask them their biggest problem with X. So if you're a web designer, what's your biggest problem with your website? If you're a dating coach, what's your biggest problem with your relationships, your confidence, your career, your weight loss, whatever you do, right? What's that core currency that you help people with? What's that core business that you're in? You ask them, and then you craft a solution that solves that problem in a fixed timeline measurably. This is one of the most powerful things, yet most people just don't do it. You can't assume, this is critical. Everything we do downstream, and this is not just part of the Fletcher method, this is part of every single business owner's success. Everything you do, every landing page, every website, every campaign, every ad, hinges on nailing your customers' goals, desires, pains, and frustrations in their words. So you're simply going to ask them. Now, when I cover the framework, I'll go into more detail. Step 1 is just ask them. Step 2, after you ask them in a format that we're going to give you in this framework, what are their top goals, frustrations, fears, needs, desires, then you're going to decide. If your customers say, hey, here are my top frustrations with this, with my website, with my dating, with my fitness, with my confidence, whatever you're dealing with, then you're going to decide which of those problems you want to solve. And then we're going to show you how to put that into a measurable and powerful message that is absolutely irresistible to your audience. Does that sound cool? Let's move forward. It's time for a framework. So here we're looking at the Avatar Goals Grid framework. It's very important that you fill this out based on feedback from your audience. So if you don't have a target audience, let's just say you're brand new or you have an existing business, you're going after a new target market, guess what? You can get paid to do this. What do I mean by that? Well, check this out. Very, very cool. You can do a survey. Let's say I'm targeting bankruptcy lawyers. Let's say I'm targeting moms with toddlers. Whoever your target avatar is, I can do a survey on Facebook, LinkedIn, email, however else I can reach those folks, direct mail, and I can say, hey, we're doing a quick marketing survey, a quick fitness survey, a quick wellness survey of all the X, which is the avatar. We're doing a survey of all the bankruptcy attorneys in Illinois. We're doing a survey of all the single moms with toddlers this year, and if you participate, we'll share the results with you. So you can actually start your marketing funnel in advance before you even have the rest of your funnel set up by getting paid. Now, what do I mean by getting paid? You're generating leads. If you have your avatar defined, you ask them to fill out this survey, you can start to get leads in advance, but more importantly, the messaging that you get and the results of this survey are priceless to you. So you're adding value to them and it works for you. Now, if you have an existing customer base or list, it's even more simple, powerful, and straightforward. You simply say, hey, I have a survey. What are your top pains and frustrations right now with X? And they're going to list them. And you're going to get a huge list. You're going to put them all together and add the top ones that your audience has in common, right? And what are your goals and desires? What are your top goals right now with your investments, with your caregiving, with your financial future, with your weight loss, with your career, with your relationships, with your website traffic, with your leads, with your business, right? You know what you do. That's a core currency, the core business you're in. We're going to cover that a little bit more in the next training. But for now, keep it simple. These are the 4 big buckets. Your pains and frustrations now, your goals and desires now. Now, if you see here in the framework, there's an axis. We have now and eventual going vertically and horizontally away and toward. This is really important because most people, as much as I hate to admit it, it's human nature, we're more likely to be motivated to move away from pain than we are towards pleasure. So sometimes in marketing, talking about the pain is okay. Sometimes it's actually more effective. I had a friend who had a blog, and one time he wrote a blog post, the healthiest recipes for young athletes at Whole Foods. That got a couple hits, maybe 5 likes on Facebook. But if he did the same exact blog post, the 5 deadliest or unhealthiest foods at Whole Foods for your child, the 5 things your child cannot eat, right? Then people are going to be concerned because we care about our kids. We care about negative things and risks. So just think about that. How can you put this together in a way that really acknowledges what they're moving toward and what they're moving away from? So that's the toward and away. Now in the vertical axis, we have now and eventually. And here's how simple this works. Right now they have pains, and eventually if they don't deal with those pains, they're going to turn into big fears and implications. Let's just say I'm a dating coach and my pain right now is being single, not knowing how to talk to people of the opposite sex, not getting dates, not knowing where to find potential matches, being too busy. Well, what's the fear? What happens in the long term if I don't solve that pain? Well, you can imagine things like ending up single, never having kids, being lonely forever. Now, not to be kind of extreme here, but those are the real long-term deepest fears implications. If you're a business consultant or coach, what are your pains and frustrations with your profitability or your leads or your staff or your schedule of being an entrepreneur, whatever the business you're in? And they're going to say, well, I'm frustrated with lack of new customers. My customers, I can't increase my rates. I have staff turnover, whatever those things are. Well, then you're going to ask, well, what happens if you don't solve those? Or why does that matter to you? The key is we have to ask why. Whenever there's a pain or frustration, We say, why does that matter? Why is that critical? Why is that important? Then we move over to the goals and desires. What's your number one goal right now with your business, with your investing, with your relationship? Again, whatever core business you're in. They're going to make a nice list for you, and you're going to say, why does that matter? And you have to probe them. Because if I say my goal is to get more clients, why does that matter? Well, so I can make more money. Why do you want more money? So I can have more time and freedom and legacy make a difference. If people's top goal is to be more confident, to lose weight, whatever their top goals are, you have to dig into why. So this is extremely powerful. Don't be fooled by its simplicity, because in these 4 quadrants, you're going to capture the short and long-term goals, desires, what they're moving toward and away from in one page. And if you want to go a little bit more deeply into this, I highly recommend the book Ask by Ryan Levesque. He goes into a great strategy that's based on surveying your target audience. And again, there's 2 core steps. A deep dive survey saying, what is your core frustration with this? And then you get all the answers and you put them into buckets and say, okay, well, it looks like for my best customers, my hyperactive best avatars, the main 5 frustrations are this. And then you create products or programs or surveys around those. So that's some great bonus reading, but you don't need to do that to move forward. Just complete the avatar grid. And once you complete the avatar grid, we're going to talk about the currency calculator in the next avatar training. It's going to put everything we've covered so far together and help you come up with your core currency. We're going to help you refine your marketing message into one word. It is now time for the avatar currency calculator. This is a very simple yet powerful tool. It's going to help you get really, really focused on the one problem that you're going to solve first for your customers, and more importantly, make it so clear and measurable that your product or program becomes necessary. The operative word is necessary, not desirable, but necessary in the minds of your customers. Let's zoom out for context and just ensure we can see the forest through the trees. We're still in the avatar training. In this 4th installment, let's review what we've talked about so far. In the target market makeover section, we defined who your niche should be, what the perfect target audience for you and your talents should be. Then in the avatar snapshot, we examined who your avatar is and what they do, the demographics and psychographics. Then in the 3rd training, we looked at the avatar goals grid, starting to get clear on their problems and their goals and their long-term fears and frustrations and dreams and implications. Where are they now and where do they want to go? And now we're going to start to bring it all together. I think you're really going to like this. The currency calculator is going to get you really, really clear on the one problem to solve first and the right way to do it measurably and with a timeline. Let's talk about why this matters, why you need to have a currency calculator, why you need to get clear on solving one problem instead of trying to jumble them all together. This is all about positioning. Most businesses position their products or services as just another option that their customers can live without. This happens when we describe what we do as general or vague. A lot of times at a coffee shop or cocktail party, we describe what we do by the category of business we're in. Like, I'm a web designer, I'm a life coach, or even a grocer. That's not only boring, but there's no correlation there on why your customers need that. And if you aren't convinced, they're not going to be either. So we want to go from just another option, just another bland, generalized category to describe our business and the problems we solve, to mission critical oxygen or something that they need. And the way we do this involves 3 simple steps. We have to be clear, measurable, with a timeline. Your clients should immediately see the ROI and the cost of not doing business with you. And again, turning it into something that they need. Let's look at the 3 simple steps that make up the currency calculator. Number 1, you're going to list your customer currencies. Now, when I talk about currency, we think about money or time usually, currency, dollars, pesos, rupees. But in this case, a currency is anything that has a measurable unit of value. Not just money, not just time, but things like body weight, profit, sales. For every business that you're in, you listed when you did the avatar goals grid, you looked at what are their goals right now. Those are their currencies. I need traffic, I need leads, I need an ROI, I want to lose weight. No matter what you're in, if you're doing B2B or B2C, there are currencies that matter to your clients. So we just want to make a list of them, all the currencies that your product or program increases and all the currencies that your product or program decreases. We're going to cover that in detail in a moment when we look at the framework. But step 1, list your currencies. Step 2 is to add a metric and a timeline. You have to give it teeth or substance by making it measurable. For example, if I was a personal trainer and my program was about weight loss, I'd be very, very specific and say, this program helps you lose 10 pounds in 30 days. If I said, hey, do you want to lose 5 pounds in 5 years, or just lose weight and be vague, or just be more fit, that is not measurable or relevant or actionable enough. You have to add a metric and a timeline. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second, but step 2, metric and timeline. Step 3, you have to decide which currency you're going to address first. When you ask any target market, whether they're existing clients of yours or potential clients that you're doing a survey to gather information on, they're going to list a lot of problems and a lot of goals that they have. And you have to decide which one you're going to solve based on your talents, your abilities, and profitability and your desire. Where are you going to start first? What is the beachhead that you're going to go after? So what problem are you going to solve right now? Let's dig right in and show you how to do it. It's my favorite time. It's time for a framework. Okay, you can see the avatar currency calculator, and it's very, very simple. There are a couple columns. Let's go through them. I'm going to show you kind of an example. The most simple example I can think about would be, let's just say personal training. I know it's a B2C example, and you'll see other B2B examples in the community and the example section of this course. But for now, let's just go with it. You'll see here that there's a column on the left that says increase and one on the right that says decrease. These are your currencies. Now, again, if I'm a personal trainer, just for example, let's just say my core business is personal training. Well, what I want to do is I just want to list my primary business and then just make a big list of all those currencies that my product or program could increase. So I might increase energy if I'm giving personal training to one specific avatar. And I want to underscore that we're talking about one avatar. In your business, you might solve, if say you're a personal trainer, you might serve, maybe passionate single moms, maybe busy executives, maybe children, maybe athletes, but you have to focus your marketing for this case on one avatar that you're going to go after first. That's your beachhead. If you're B2B, and you serve businesses, then it might be one specific niche, like elder law attorneys or local restaurants or Mexican restaurants. So everything we do with these frameworks is geared towards one avatar. So in the case of this personal trainer and his or her avatar, we're talking about one avatar. Let's just say that is the busy mother that wants to maybe lose weight or be more fit. So if I provide those services, I would increase energy, maybe muscle mass, maybe confidence, maybe overall well-being, mental focus, strength. These are things that I'm just guessing here. This is just a hypothetical example. Speed, maybe if I'm an athlete or I'm running races. Performance, if I'm a competitive athlete, maybe I want to have a measurable increase in my bench press or my vertical leap or my 40-yard dash, right? Then we want to talk about those currencies that our product or program decrease. I might decrease body fat. I might decrease weight, depression, health risks, hopefully. Food bills, medical expenses might be on the list there. Maybe even stress. Maybe I decrease things like stress and anxiety. And time in the gym. Nobody wants to be in the gym for 9 hours to lose a few pounds. So this isn't just you making stuff up. If I did the goals grid properly and I have real feedback from my target market, now I'm just going to make 2 simple columns. Say, look, if I'm releasing a service or a product, a software product, again, B2B or B2C, I guarantee there are measurable currencies that you can increase or decrease. But the important thing is to have a metric and a timeline, because if we have vague statements like get more energy or I'm in the wellness business or happiness or health, those aren't going to resonate properly with the audience. We have to add a metric and a timeline. So how do we do that? Well, let's just write it down and look at what we can do. I might have a program that can increase your energy in I could double your energy in 2 to 10 days. Well, that's kind of hard to measure. So maybe that's not a good one to use. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. If you find one of these currencies one or more of the currencies are hard to measure, you might want to skip them and not use them because, again, we have to be very specific and relevant in our messaging. For something like muscle mass, I can help you gain 20 pounds in 90 days. Confidence, 10x your confidence in 3 weeks. That sounds hard to measure, right? Well-being might be hard to measure as well. Mental focus. Now, there are some items down the rabbit hole you can go after. How do you quantify focus? Maybe productivity, maybe number of words written per minute, maybe test scores, but I don't want to be abstract. I want to be very, very open and direct and specific in what I can do. Strength, I could double your bench press, maybe in a fixed amount of time. Speed, you can run a 5K in under 22 minutes with our 30-day training program. Performance. So without going through every specific item, you get the idea. Now we can decrease things like body fat. There's metrics for all these things. So you can see that I'm just listing how can I add a metric and a timeline for each of those currencies. This is a very, very linear and effective way to come up with messaging that literally cannot fail in your business. Why? Because if you take the time to do this, you're going to really know which one of these problems that you can solve first. So remember, there's 3 steps. Number 1, we want to list everything that we have here. Number 2, we want to get really clear on adding a metric and a timeline for each. And then number 3, we have to choose the core currency. So what I might do, let's say I interview my clients or my target audience, or the product I'm going to release and the passion and ability I have is weight loss. My core currency is weight loss. So we're going from very, very vague and saying, oh, I'm a personal trainer, I'm in the personal training business, to very specific weight loss. Because if I asked my target audience, which of these problems do you want me to solve for you right now? If you could wave a magic wand and I can solve one of these problems right now, maybe my avatar of that busy mother who wants to lose some stubborn weight, who's tried and failed, would say weight. Of course, she might want to be stronger or more confident, or maybe muscle mass would be more appropriate for a male avatar, not always, but maybe she wanted to lower medical expenses in the long term, or stress or anxiety. Okay, there are 3 distinctions I want to make here regarding how to use this, a couple of nuances I think you're really going to find insightful. Number 1 is, if people aren't comfortable saying that they can put a timeline and a metric to their services, it's usually because the client may or may not get those results. In other words, if you're a coach or a trainer, what you have to say is you provide them with all the tools and resources they need to get 2x or 10x in this amount of time, right? So I understand that you can give them a complete blueprint for online success, a complete blueprint to lose up to 20 pounds and keep it off without giving up the foods that they love. Or if you have a done-for-you service, my challenge to you would be, how good is your service if you have no way to quantify results? If I hire somebody to do a roof, I want them to say, I'm going to give you a roof that's going to last over 30 years for under $30,000 in the next 30 days. There has to be some kind of measure. If you're going to do business with an agency like an SEO company or any other done-for-you service, and they can't give you any kind of quantifiable outcome, they're not going to have an easy time selling it, delivering it, or keeping you as a customer. So go get a customer if you haven't done it before, and provide one result for one customer and document that result and say, hey, here's how we doubled this business's web traffic without spending more in advertising in 30 days. Okay. So we're going to talk more about messaging next in the next training. But for now, the goal is to take the currency calculator and do these 3 steps. List the currencies. Number 2, add a metric and a timeline for each of them. And number 3, pick the one that you're most likely to have success solving right now, because that's the most burning problem for your customers. Now, another nuance is that, so we talked about if you haven't done this before, if you have done-for-you services, in other words, if you can't guarantee the results, remember, if you're a trainer or a coach, you can talk about you're giving them a roadmap or a blueprint. The third nuance I want to bring up that I think is going to be very helpful is that you're going to use these currencies, these other currencies. You're not just going to throw them away. You might have these currencies as different steps in your greater process. If you look at the Fletcher method, I talk about your website, finding your customer, putting together a funnel, getting traffic. There's all kinds of currencies that you care about as my customer, but I'm picking one. And I might start with double your sales in 90 days without tech overwhelm. I might say generate 100 new leads in the next 10 days without spending money in advertising. And I'm going to pick and choose these. I'm going to put in my programs. This is still going to be my roadmap, but I just have to go from vague to specific, from web design to the traffic as my core currency, from personal training to weight loss, because you need to narrow down, and that's how you're going to get traction. You have to have one currency with a metric and timeline. So your homework is fill this out, and like all other frameworks, really put some thought into it. This is a cumulative course. When we talk next about your $1 million message, it's all going to come together, and you're going to have a complete, literally a 1-sentence phrase, a one sentence message you can use to develop products and programs, maybe even a whole business around. And a lot of businesses get this wrong. So I'm really happy that you're with us. You're really going to enjoy the next training. But for now, complete the currency calculator, and I'll see you in the next training. The goal of the $1 Million Message course is to expand on what you've learned in the avatar training and condense all of your marketing and your products and services into one powerful sentence that could 10x your business. Once you've gone through the avatar pains and frustrations and the currency calculator and the goals grid, now it's time to take everything you've learned and put it into that $1 Million Message framework. It's going to be the one sentence you're going to take with you in all launching your products, speaking gigs, webinars, virtually everything you do when it comes to marketing this specific business or product is going to hinge on getting your $1 Million Message correct. It's going to take your marketing messaging from really repulsive to incredibly irresistible and help you establish micro celebrity in your niche. That's the $1 Million Message training. Enjoy. The $1 Million Message, how to instantly stand out and get up to 10 times more results from your marketing and advertising and distill your entire marketing message into one sentence. This message training builds on the avatar training. If you haven't completed that, I recommend you go back and go through the perfect avatar training, as this message is going to bring it all together and be very powerful for you and your business. Why this matters? Well, because your message is used everywhere. Every ad, every webinar, interview, even to create your whole product and perhaps even your business. You may have heard of unique selling propositions before, but this is a very different and more powerful way to nail your messaging. Most businesses, entrepreneurs, and marketers have Me Too messaging. Yuck. What I mean by that is if you're at a coffee shop or cocktail party, people say, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And you start to speak to the category of business you're in. I'm a lawyer, coach, podcaster, life coach. And the problem is it screams boring. I've heard it before. There's nothing special. Ew, get away. In fact, it can be really repulsive just to have that opportunity pass by. Someone's asking and you have their focus, their attention, whether it's online or offline or in person, and you kind of blow it by saying, "I'm a lawyer." It's repulsive. So how do we go from repulsive to incredibly irresistible? Well, we have to think about the construction that makes up an interesting message. We want to have a state of micro celebrity. We want to be seen as the authority in that niche, either the single most effective or the best person that could solve one problem for our market. So everything we've done in the avatar training is going to come to bear here, and you're going to understand how to have a one sentence message you might use for the rest of your career, at least as it applies to your current business. The $1 Million Message is made up of 4 core components or steps. The first is you have to nail down the biggest goal of your avatar. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about that in the avatar goals grid and the currency calculator. And it's important because there's a lot of problems that your target market or avatar might have as it pertains to what you do or your services. But you have to pick the biggest goal you can achieve for them right now. Secondly, we need to focus on their greatest dream or their why. We always talk about drilling down and keep asking the question why until we get to the core. So if someone in the B2B space says, "I want a better website," why? Well, because I want more traffic. Why? So I can get more leads. Why? So I can get more customers. Why? So I can hire more people. Why? To have more time off, spend more time with my family, and have a greater legacy and provide for my children. That's the why. And that's ultimately what drives us the hardest and over the greatest duration is the big why, the reason we get up in the morning, okay? And we're going to talk about how to extract that in a moment. And that's why we filled out the avatar goals grid to determine why. What is the long-term reason that they want to accomplish this goal? The third component is the primary frustration. What is the biggest sticking point or point of friction that they have in achieving their goal? That is another benefit of the avatar goals grid is because we identified, okay, what are your biggest frustrations or problems right now as it pertains to this area of your business or your life? And then we just wrap it up by adding a metric and a timeline. Instead of speaking in generalities, I can help you feel better and get more traffic and have a better website. No, I can help you accomplish this specific goal measurably in this amount in this much time. And that makes up the $1 Million Message. So here we have the $1 Million Message framework, and it's broken up into those 3 components that we mentioned, plus the metric and the timeline. Number 1, what's your avatar's biggest goal or desire? Number 2, their greatest dream or aspiration. Number 3, the single largest pain or frustration when it comes to accomplishing that problem. So now you see the benefit of the currency calculator. What's the one problem we're going to solve? We already know it needs to be metric and have a timeline. Now, all we have to do is put it together into $1 million message. So let's look at an example here, an arbitrary example. If I'm serving an avatar that we've used before in our examples, the female busy mom who wants to lose weight, right? So their biggest goal or desire to lose weight, to be healthy and happy. That's their greatest dream or aspiration. Why do they want to lose weight? Well, I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be able to care for and take care of my children for years to come, right? Their single pain or frustration when it comes to losing weight, not just fitness, not just health. We agreed we're not in the personal training business. We're in the losing weight business, the weight business. If you're not in the website business, you're in the lead generation business, right? Now we put it all together and make it relevant. We always start with a compliment. We don't want to say, I help really frustrated truckers. I help severely overweight and lazy people. No, we want to say, I help dedicated, focused, goal-oriented, intelligent, dedicated mothers achieve one thing, lose up to 20 pounds in 29 days. We have a metric, 20 pounds, and a timeline, 29 days. So they can look and feel their best without giving up the foods they love. That is $1 million message. And for B2B, if you're dealing with local niches, a business might say, I help pediatric dentists generate up to 20 new patients each month from the internet in the next 30 days without spending a lot on advertising. Or I help busy executives or mothers or children, athletes lose up to 15 pounds of stubborn body fat without giving up carbs. And you can do this for anything, software, e-commerce, B2B, coaches, consultants. This is not niche or industry specific. It's a one-sentence $1 million message that will work for your business. Your homework, as always, is to put it to use. Fill out the framework and upload your $1 million message into the course discussion section here in the membership site. Get some feedback, really make it stick. I can't underscore enough that this is going to drive every speaking gig you do. If you were to write a book, it's going to come down to this. Your signature solution that we generate in upcoming training is going to be based around this. And it's all about deciding what's the core metric you serve and how can we put a metric and a timeline behind it and make it relevant to one audience. I'm telling you, this is so powerful. And if I had this years ago, I'd be way far ahead. It's just really, really powerful. Just take the time, fill it out, get it done. We'll see you in the community. The Signature Solution course is designed to help you do one thing: create a world-class visual representation of your unique blueprint or process to take your customers from point A to point B. If you haven't done so already, it's highly recommended that you've gone through the Perfect Avatar and $1 million message courses, as this is going to be your opportunity to bring all that together and create a visual framework that you're going to use right now and for years to come. This matters a great deal because a lot of small business owners don't have the resources or the know-how to come across to their customers like a big brand. Big brands that really are organized and professional lower buying resistance, and they increase the authority and the trust in their target audience. And that's what your signature solution is going to do for you. You're going to use your signature solution to show your customers a clear, proven path from point A to point B. You're going to put together 2 simple frameworks, and the result of this is going to be a rock solid blueprint you can use for years to come to help you articulate your ability to get your clients from their biggest frustrations to their biggest goals in no time flat. None of your competitors are doing this, and quite frankly, you probably haven't been either. But if you think about how you got here in the first place, it's because I showed you my signature solution, and the rest is history. Hey there, this is Aaron again, and we're going to cover the signature solution. I'm very, very excited about this because this is going to be your one-page roadmap you're going to use to show your customers a clear path from point A to point B, from their frustrations to their measurable goals, like no one else has done before. It's about showing them and not telling them. This is very, very significant. It's not an optional part of the training, as no matter what type of industry or niche you're in, once you show somebody the map, if you're the man or the man with the plan, as Taki Moore says, you show them how to get from point A to point B, their confidence, their trust goes through the roof because you're the first person to show them a path. The second reason why this is so very important is because you're going to use this framework, this signature solution that you create for virtually everything, not only to do with this product that you're launching, but maybe for your whole business and career. In other words, you're going to come up with 3 simple steps, a clear framework and a map that could be the content in your webinar, speaking gig, the book that you write, the dialogue, the questions you ask during a sales call, and everything in between. The signature solution is the core of your marketing and business plan. First, let's zoom out so we know where we are and we can see the forest through the trees. We're still in the foundational phase, but in this 3rd step, we're going to talk about your offer for the first time and kind of bring it all together. I'm really excited about this because once you know your avatar, your target market, who you're going to serve, and it's a good fit for your lifestyle, your business, and your wallet, quite frankly, then we talked about your message, your $1 million message that has one currency, a metric, and a timeline. And now for the first time, we get to kind of put it out to the world. We get to create something external, and it's a 1-page roadmap or blueprint that your customers and quite frankly yourself have never seen. This is the signature solution. Let's talk about why this matters. First of all, your customers are filled with overwhelm and information overload. There's just too much noise. And more importantly, your competitors aren't showing them a map or a plan. They're not giving them context or the big picture and a clear path to achieve results. And most importantly, your signature solution is going to be the core of everything that you do in your marketing. It's going to take your brand and your confidence and your conversion rates and sales to the next level because you're going to be able to show everybody, no matter where you are, a clear map that you have to get them from point A to point B. People are really skeptical. Your customers are filled with so much overwhelm and information overload, and quite frankly, anybody can throw up a quick landing page and place a Facebook ad. So there's not a clear line between the true experts and the amateurs. If you think about a lot of professions, if you're going to go see a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to look for credentials and certifications and actual expertise. But in the digital world, everybody can say, hey, I can give you the secret. So by showing them the signature system, you're gonna instantly bring down their skepticism and their kind of buying resistance and give them a whole heck of a lot more confidence and trust. There's a perplexing puzzle out there that your customers and your competitors aren't solving properly. Your customers don't know exactly what to do. They don't have a roadmap. They're just trying to pick little pieces of information and solve the main problem that they have. And your competitors are talking instead of showing. No one is showing them a blueprint. I'm telling you, when you're the individual or the company that creates the ladder to your customer success, of course, they're going to climb your ladder. So let's talk about how we get from a perplexing puzzle to a proven and simple path, and more importantly, a process for success. You're going to be the first and only person to show them the way, quote unquote. And the key again is to show, not just tell. When you create and show them this clear path, why wouldn't they follow it? And this is going to give you, if you're an individual, a coach, a consultant, if you have software, even if you're selling e-commerce products. And by the way, I'm going to show you how to apply this to all of those industries or niches. You are not exempt. This does apply to you. It's going to give you a big brand presence. You're going to come across as extremely organized and credible with a lot of authority and trust because you're presenting content and communicating your deliverables in a very measurable and easy to understand step-by-step pathway or blueprint. So let's dig into the 3 simple steps that you can follow to put this together and have your own signature solution in no time flat. So the first step is to define your 3 big blocks to your signature solution. Now, what I mean here is there's always 3 main chunks or milestones or phases for your customers to achieve their desired outcome. Obviously, it needs to be measurable with a timeline, but we'll talk about that in a moment. These are just, think about this as 3 chapters of a book. If you're going to write a book about how to get your customers from point A to point B, even if they never met you, what are the 3 main steps or 3 legs of a stool? Think about it. For B2C, we're using an analogy a lot here of nutrition or fitness. In the fitness, maybe the 3 phases would be nutrition, fitness, exercise. If you're a B2B provider, it could be your website, your blog, and your content and your traffic. Even if you sell e-commerce products, I had a client who sold organic goods for babies. Obviously parents were buying the products for the babies, and they would come to a website And they were looking at all these things, food and booties and child seats and all these different things. And they're like, man, all I want is someone to show me what I need to do from the time the baby's born, maybe to 3 months, and then 3 to 6 months, and then 1 year and beyond. So if you give people a framework or a pathway for what they actually want, it's not to go buy a bunch of products randomly. It's to have a happier and healthier, secure life, and enjoy time with their newborn child. So it's always about the transformation. That's why we spent so much time before creating this on your avatar and your message. And now you're going to see how it all comes together. So step 1, 3 big blocks. Now we need to lay out the simple steps required to achieve the goal of each big block. I know it sounds confusing, but it's really simple. If you have 3 big blocks, and each of those blocks, there's 3 sub-steps, like in the Fletcher method, then you have kind of a 3x3 grid that I'll show you in a moment. And the last step is to document the total transformation for each step in your signature solution. At this point, you should be saying, wait a minute, what does that look like? That's what I'm about to show you, because it's the best time of all. It's time for a framework. So there are actually 2 frameworks that make up the signature solution. The first is a signature solution milestones framework that you see here. Let me explain how it works. You see a timeline. Now, when we put together your $1 million message, we said, hey, I'm going to help you achieve this result in this amount of time. So whether it's whatever the currency is, if it's they want to do weight or taxes or ROI or confidence or website traffic or anything in between, you have a core currency by now that you've already filled out. If you haven't done so, go back to the avatar training. That's where you're going to come up with the raw material you need to put this together. Let's assume that you're here because you did that. So to accomplish that goal, now we talk about the how. And the how has to do with the steps they're going to take even if they never met you. So this is not how you take your clients through a proprietary process if you have a done-for-you service. This is if you were going to write a book and there are 3 main chapters or phases, what would they be? And then for each, you're going to list the main topic, the transformation. So they're going from this to that. Now, this is really important, and I'm going to expand on it on the next slide. But think about it. Not only is there a transformation for your whole signature solution to take you from here to here in an X amount of time, but for each sub-step here, there's also a mini transformation. That's why it's so powerful. So if my main business is online marketing, and one of my steps is the foundational, the funnel, and the floodgates. This is the Fletcher method signature solution. Now you're kind of seeing me reverse engineer how I got you here, so you see that it works. So let's say for the foundation, you want to go from bland to stand out. For your website, you want to go from, tumbleweeds to a lead generation engine, from no traffic to unlimited traffic. For floodgates, you want to go from an ATM, from a slot machine rather, where you're gambling, to an ATM. There's always a mini transformation for each step. I'm going to explain more later. If you're not crystal clear in this now, just take your first stab at it. List each main phase your customers have to go through, whether or not they do it with you, whether or not you're the provider. 3 main steps. List the topic, the transformation, the from and to. And the last step is to give each step a unique name. What I mean by that is we want to brand what you do, not only the greater system, not only the greater blueprint here, your signature solution, but each step should have a unique name. So I don't call it traffic, I use floodgates, if that makes sense. Now let's look at the second framework. Hopefully you're starting to see how it's going to come together really nicely here. And obviously you'll see some examples in this course, and the Fletcher method should come to mind. It's a 3x3 grid. You see the 3 main phases on the left. For me, foundation, funnel, floodgates, going from bottom to top, from point A to point B. And under each one of those main milestones or phases, there are 3 core steps. So you can see the general framework here. You're going to fill it out. Let me show you an example of how it works for me. And I want to underscore the need to think about the transformation. This is kind of meta, but if you go back and look at your avatar goals grid that you filled out, or the currency calculator, there were a lot of little frustrations your customers have had. Now, this is a huge aha moment for you, hopefully. It was for me and a lot of our members, that they listed a lot of pains, and maybe you didn't pick those to begin with. Maybe you can bake those into here. So if your customers have pains with website traffic, pains with their relationships, pains with losing weight or confidence or whatever your core currency is, you can actually bake them into here. So again, there's a greater transformation for my whole signature solution. There's a mini transformation for each of the main phases. And there's a super mini transformation for each of the steps. Right now you're saying, what are you talking about? Well, let me show you. The first thing you're going to notice on the left is there are three main phases. As we said, those are the blocks. I think to get from point A to point B, my core currency was to double your sales in 90 days without tech overwhelm. To get there, you need a foundation, your customer, your avatar, your message, and your offer. You need a funnel in place, which is a lead magnet, a sales funnel, and a conversion event. How are you actually going to convert your new leads into customers? And you need floodgates. Traffic, time to turn on the floodgates, whether you're using things like Facebook ads, content marketing, or SEO, or other traffic methods. You need those three things. They're named. They're not just called, research and conversions and traffic. They're named specifically, and they all have F's, as the Fletcher method does. That's bonus. It's not required. And maybe it's just me being a geek. But before I go further, what would I do differently? Well, I would name the signature system whenever possible and bake in my kind of core currency. So I might call it the 2x sales method or the 10x leads method, and then maybe a tagline, how to double your sales in 90 days with no tech overwhelm. So whenever you can bake in the avatar, who they are, if you're serving one niche like busy moms or elder law attorneys, if you can name it and bake it right in, a lot of people make that mistake. They'll just call it like the massive growth blueprint. No, if you serve, cosmetic surgeons, the cosmetic surgeons online marketing blueprint, how to double your new patients in 90 days without spending more on advertising. Okay. So the name, I call it the Fletcher method. It's a little bit vague. We all learn as we go, just to show you it doesn't have to be perfect, but do these best practices the best you can. The second notable element here is under each of the three big blocks, there are 3 steps. Now you might say, what if I have 4 steps or 5 steps? There are a lot of reasons why they should be fit nicely into this 3x3 grid. Number 1, these are going to be the 3 main topics of your webinar, 3 main chapters of your book, 3 main kind of phases of your sales intake form if you sell online. You're always going to use this no matter what you do. So just keep it simple. Don't try to improvise until you learn the basics, the basic scales before you try to improvise on your instrument, so to speak. So for me, the foundation was they have to know their avatar, their message, their offer, and the other small steps for each main block. Now, the last thing I want to point out that I think is really going to help you put this together, and it makes it bulletproof, is to have a transformation for each step, right? So for the avatar, they're going from anonymous to intimate, right? For their message, they might be going from commonplace to unique. For their offer, they're going from low pay to leveraged. And for their lead magnet, they're going from a trickle to a flood of leads. Always think about the before and after for each step. Now, if you really want extra credit, there could be a before and after for each of your main blocks. I didn't reflect that here. That's probably a pretty good idea. So just think about that. You have 3 levels of transformation. There's a transformation for your whole signature solution. The whole, this is the whole thing that you're launching here to get your customers from point A to point B measurably. Then there's a transformation for each of the main phases, and there's a transformation for each of the steps. If you do that, now it seems pretty detailed and pretty nerdy. That's why it works. It's foolproof. Keep in mind, I used to be on the bomb squad, and I learned that if you miss one little step, the consequences could be grave. So this is about the detail now, so you don't have to worry about it later. When you go to put together Facebook ads, landing pages, sales letters, sales scripts, you're going to have all the copy already done, literally, because you're going to know how to advertise your lead magnet. Oh, do you want to go from here to here in this much time? Cool, get this free thing. Everything that you do will be so much more simple if you have a good signature solution. And just to show you a visual of mine, of course, I'll show you some other examples as well, but hopefully you can look at this in an entirely different way and map over your strategy. 3 main phases that lead people to a greater transformation measurably, and 3 steps for each phase. Put together your signature solution. That's your homework. Look at the examples. You're going to see B2B and B2C, but put together your signature solution, because this is a step you don't want to miss. It's going to really make everything so much easier for what you do, for not only for the rest of this course, but every webinar, every speaking gig, everything else you do to communicate the value to your audience will come down to the effectiveness and clarity of your signature solution. Enjoy. I'll see you in the next training. The Profit Pyramid course is going to help you create a one-page framework you're going to use in virtually every aspect of your marketing, whether it's webinars, sales presentations, speaking gigs, everything in between, because it's going to help you accomplish 3 key goals. The first, it's going to help your customers get crystal clear on exactly where they are on their ladder of success. It's also going to help your customers get very confident that you can help them get to the next step measurably and quickly and without a lot of pain or frustration. And lastly, it's going to help you get clear on how to position your products and pricing and charge more and work less. This is part of the offer section of the foundational training in the Fletcher method, and it's really going to pave the way for you to start to put together your sales funnel. You're going to create a ladder with levels that your target audience and your customers have never seen before, regardless of what their goals are. If they're a consumer, an individual, or a business, your currency that matters is that one measurable problem you solve for them. And this is going to show them where they are right now on their journey. And when you're the person that gives them the ladder, that shows them the way, they're going to climb your ladder. You're going to fill out this simple framework that's going to break the journey of your customers into 4 distinct phases. Then we're going to list metrics so we can measure what phase they're in, symptoms so they know what it feels like so we can tell where they are right now based on what they're dealing with, and one key takeaway to success. This is the Profit Pyramid training. Enjoy. You're going to use the Profit Pyramid to accomplish 3 critical goals in your business. Number 1, you're going to help your customers get crystal clear on exactly where they are on their ladder of success, on their journey toward their highest goal. Secondly, it's going to help your customers get completely confident that you're the person with the product or program to help them reach that next step in a measurable amount of time. And finally, it's going to help you get crystal clear on exactly how to position your products and pricing. As always, let's zoom out so we know exactly where we are and we have context when it comes to this framework. So this is our second training in the offer section of the foundational phase. And just a quick review, in the avatar training, we had to get clear on, are you climbing the right mountain in the first place? Do you have the right customer where your talents and passions are going to be put to use, where you can make a profit and make a difference? And then that $1 million message. Are you going to state what you do in a unique way that has a metric and a timeline so you instantly jump off the page or through the room when it comes to communicating with your customers? And then we talked about your signature solution, exactly how you do that, how you accomplish it. And now we're going to talk about the Profit Pyramid, which is where they are now. Your customers only need to answer a couple questions. Where am I right now? Hey, no one's showed me that. And how can I get to that next step? By having both sides of that satisfied, the where and the how, you have a bulletproof plan that nobody else has ever presented to your clients. Let's just examine for a moment why this matters so very much to us and our target market. Our clients and our prospects are lost in the woods. It doesn't matter if it's B2B or B2C, they're not exactly clear where they are now and where they should be going next. What exactly should they be doing now to be on that path to success? They don't know that the ladder exists. That's a very important point. So when we can show them a ladder with clear levels, they can do a couple of very powerful things. Number 1, they can self-select. They can say, oh, I'm level 2. I'm a yellow belt. I was a white belt and I want to get to green belt. How do I get there? And that's true for business, no matter what currency they're after, or for consumers, no matter what passion or what problem they're trying to solve. It could be body weight. It could be profitability. It could be their investments, their ROI. It could be their time off. You already know your core currency that you're going to help them solve. And now we need to divide that into 4 levels. In other words, at the very top, those are the best possible customers who have already achieved their goals and their dreams. And quite frankly, they don't need us. And at the bottom of that ladder, there might be people that are struggling so badly, they might not be ready for us. So usually we're going to have 4 key rungs on the ladder, and we're going to focus our business and our products on helping 2s get to 3 and 3s get to level 4. If that doesn't make sense quite yet, you're going to see the framework, and I promise we'll put it all together. The goal is quite simple. It's for your customers to become instantly crystal clear on where they are now, and for you to be the first and only person to show them the ladder of where they want to go next. They can say, hey, I'm at level 1, and I'm crystal clear that that is where I want to go to level 2. And then your signature solution is going to speak to how, okay? So again, this is the where, and the signature solution is the how. If you did any kind of sales call or marketing communication or webinar or diagnosis, when someone comes into a doctor's office, what do? You take vital signs based on those currencies that matter. You say, here's your blood pressure, here's your health, here's your body fat. Okay, so on the scale of being a professional athlete, for example, you are a couch potato, and maybe running a Boston Marathon qualifying time might be at the top, right? Or maybe winning a marathon would be at the top. So it doesn't matter what goal you're going to help your audience achieve. You have to help them get crystal clear on where they are now by defining point A. What level are you at right now? They're going to say 2, and you're going to say, I have a way to get you to level 3 in 90 days, in 30 days, right? Hopefully this is making sense. It's going to help them become completely confident on your ability to take them to the next step and beyond. This helps you because it allows you to put your target avatar, your audience, into clear buckets. It helps you sift and sort them so you can understand who the beginners are and who the serious folks are. They have the resources, the momentum, or the money to work with you. So you're going to decide out of those 4 steps of the ladder, the 4 rungs, which you want to help first, and then your signature solution is going to speak to how you help them get to the next rung. Let's look at some examples and the steps required to get there. So there are 4 simple steps to putting together your profit pyramid. Let's dig right in. The first step is to break your customers in their journey into 4 main levels. Just think about it as complete novice, struggling. Maybe the next one is kind of working with some momentum. The third one is on the right track. The fourth are folks that are already at the top. That's why it's going to be a pyramid as I show you the framework. What are the 4 main levels of your audience? The 4 main kind of steps that they go through to go from completely beginner to the top, from couch potato to winning a marathon. What are those 4 main levels? Step 2 is to assign metrics that matter to each step. You have a core currency that your business solves. That's your signature solution. It could be profitability, body fat, it could be confidence, it could be monthly income. What is that metric that matter? And how would I know if I looked at a bunch of people in my target audience, which of the 4 levels they're at? Let's say it's body fat. Okay, 30% might be at the bottom, maybe 20, 10, 5. There's the 4 levels. Don't overcomplicate it. What I want you to do is just take the absolute super winner, best total ninja at the top of the pyramid who's already there, who's already that pro athlete, already super successful. And then at the bottom, the person that's struggling the most, again, who quite often might not even be a match for your programs. And then you have 2 levels in between who you're going to serve. And I'm going to show you visually how this makes sense, but just assign a metric. How would I know measurably what level they're at? And then after I have the metric for each of those 4 levels, I want to state the symptoms for each level. So if I'm struggling, would my symptoms be frustration, lack of leads, working too many hours, right? Lack of confidence, poor communication skills, anger, anxiety. What are the symptoms or pains? Now, you can see how this is bringing everything together because when we did the avatar course, we looked at their pains and frustrations that apply to the problems you solve in your business. Now we're going to revisit those and say, okay, well, what are those main pains they might be feeling if they're at level 1 and level 2 and level 3? Again, hopefully on level 4, they have positive symptoms like they feel legacy, freedom, time. So symptoms aren't only pains, they're also positives. If you have, maybe on level 3, if you're a business consultant or coach, level 3 could be rapid growth or momentum. But what are the symptoms? How would I know by examining somebody what level they're at? How do they feel? What kind of problems they have? What are kind of the positive trends that are happening? And lastly, step 4 is you want to have one key takeaway, one key to success for each level. What's the one thing that your avatar needs to do to get to the next level? So if you had one word, literally, if they're at the bottom and they're struggling, let's say martial arts. To get from white belt to yellow belt, you have to show up. To get from yellow belt to green belt, you have to drill, do katas, right? Maybe to get from green belt to brown belt, you have to spar, and from brown to black belt, you might have to teach. So there's always one word. And I'm telling you, I'm going to show you later in this course examples that range from guitar lessons to relationships, to consulting, to product management, to weight loss, to exercise, and everything in between. There's 4 key steps. There's symptoms, there's a metric for each step, and there's one key takeaway. Here's the one thing you should do to get from here to here, okay? Now, I know all this is hypothetical. Let's dig into the most fun part of the training. And my favorite time, it's time for a framework. So what I'd like to do, instead of starting with the blank framework, which you see here, I want to review mine because this is the one you're probably most familiar with as you saw it during some kind of event or a webinar or an online workshop. You've seen this kind of profit pyramid because I presented it to you. Now, my main currency that matters, if you can't guess, is revenue. It's sales. To double your sales in 90 days without tech overwhelm. So if I look at my audience and I look at their sales and their lead flow, so I can tell how good your marketing is, how automated or not automated your marketing is by lead flow. So my core currency is, are you at a drought, a trickle, a flow, or a flood, right? What does your lead flow look like? And what is the measurable revenue that you're doing, generally speaking, from struggling up to driving? So you can see 0 to 10K, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, 100K plus. Now, my audience is mostly solopreneurs, freelancers, very small businesses. So, if I'm serving a big corporate market, this could be 100 million to a billion, but that's not my avatar. So there's 4 levels you can see: struggling, surviving, thriving, or driving. Those are the 4 key levels. Now, what do I say? If you're on top, if you're totally driving, you probably don't need what I can offer. And if you're at the bottom, you might not be ready yet. You might not have an offer or a business. So we have the 4 levels. That's step 1. Step 2, a metric that matters. Each level is measurable and speaks to my core currency. Step 3, I listed common symptoms. So if someone's totally struggling, they're frustrated, they have overwhelm, they're trying one-on-one selling, there's little money to invest and grow their business. Maybe if they're at the surviving stage, they're exhausted, but they're still excited because they have a little bit of momentum. And you can see that those are the symptoms for each level. Now, the key to success should always be one word. If you're struggling, you don't need to go read books on how to hire or time management or anything else. You need to prove that you have market demand, you have a good offer that makes sense. If you're surviving, you don't need to go and learn about how to invest and how to franchise businesses. No, you need to promote by putting in place an automated inbound marketing funnel. And you can see that from thriving to driving, you have to focus on processes and then finally people, and you're at scale. So that's my value model. Now let's look at your framework so you can start to work on it. So what are the 4 steps? Number 1, break the journey of your avatar into 4 key phases or steps. Number 2, assign a metric that matters, a measurable metric to each of the steps. Where would they be in terms of that metric to be at a step 1, 2, 3, or 4? Step 3, you're going to list their symptoms for each step. And step 4, one word, one key takeaway, a key to success to get to the next level. Your homework, if you haven't guessed, is to complete your profit pyramid, fill out the framework so you can move forward and start to put together your funnel.